ever feel like you're like totally your own worst ally when you're trying to reach those big, audacious goals? Like, ugh, why am I like this?
You're not alone.
Today, we are taking a deep dive, though, into some advice to help us get unstuck.
Yes.
From Happixs.
Love that channel.
This YouTube channel all about like positive psychology and how to kind of like make those changes for good.
Yes. I love their practical tips.
So they have some amazing stuff on like literally how just changing your thoughts can change your life, which sounds kind of hokey at first, but then when you really like dig into it,
It makes sense.
it's like, oh, okay, I see what they're saying.
It's so true.
Yeah.
What I find so interesting about their approach is, they emphasize self-awareness as the first step, recognizing those negative thought patterns.
Yeah.
It's always the first step to overcoming, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like what they do so well is they give you the tools to like actually identify it.
Yes.
Because I think sometimes we know something's holding us back, but we don't know exactly what it is.
Absolutely.
Like this kind of nebulous, like, oh, I'm just not good enough or whatever.
Right. It's lurking back there. But they really brought it to the surface.
Yeah.
Which is great.
They're like, hey, shine a spotlight on those limiting beliefs that are like keeping you stuck. One thing they say that really I wrote down was, is this really true, or is it just an old dusty story I've been telling myself for years?
Oh, I love that. That's so good.
And it's so true.
Because we get these narratives in our head, right? And we play them over and over again. We forget to even question them.
It becomes like part of your identity almost,
Absolutely. And it's so interesting how much this really aligns with cognitive behavioral therapy as well.
Oh, interesting.
Because it really highlights how powerful our thoughts are.
Okay.
They influence our emotions and our behaviors.
Yeah.
If we're constantly bombarded by self-doubt, it's really no surprise when we find ourselves hesitating to go after what we really want.
This is so real for me because I can vividly remember when I first wanted to be a writer, that belief that I wasn't creative enough to be a writer.
Yeah.
And wow, did that hold me back for years?
Because you believed it.
Yeah.
It's like this self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
And I really had to do a lot of work to like unpack that and really question that belief and realize it wasn't true. But
it's so powerful though that you did that.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of shifting from like a negative to a more positive mindset.
Right.
It's not about pretending challenges don't exist.
Right.
Or like falling into that trap of like toxic positivity.
Yeah. Yeah. Toxic positivity drives me nuts.
Yeah. But it's about like actively choosing, consciously choosing that more empowering and helpful perspective.
Yes.
Which is, it takes effort, but
it does.
It's so worth it.
And I love how Happixs, they talk about acknowledging the tough stuff, but then actively reframing it. And I wrote down this phrase that they use because I was like, oh, that's a good one. Liberate yourself from the negative.
Ooh, I like that.
Isn't that good?
That's very good.
But what does that actually look like? Like, how do we practically do that in our everyday lives?
Well, that's where this idea of cultivating a growth mindset comes in.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's a concept, really pioneered by Carol Dweck, psychologist. Basically, it's all about viewing obstacles as stepping stones, not roadblocks.
Yeah, instead of like, oh, that's it, I'm done.
Exactly. So it's like, instead of like a dead end, think of it as like a detour.
Okay.
It forces you to discover a new route, maybe even a shortcut to where you want to go.
I like that. That's a really good way to like visualize it. And it makes so much sense because, they talk about embracing challenges. So it's like, instead of hitting a wall with your goal and being like, well, I guess that's it, it's over. It's like, okay, what can I learn from this?
Yes.
How can I use this to like actually grow?
Exactly. Like, what is this here to teach me?
Yeah.
Because everything is, there for reasons. Like, how can we learn from it? Right.
Totally.
So even thinking about like, what is a challenge you're facing right now? How could you view that from like a growth mindset perspective?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And I think one of the biggest indicators you're not in a growth mindset is that you're so focused on the problem that you're not even looking for a solution.
That's good. Write that down. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, another thing that they talk about that I think is really powerful is visualization. And they talk about really picturing your goals in detail, like really vividly, like what does it look like? How does it feel? And it's almost like you're already there.
And you know what's so cool? There's actually a scientific basis for this.
Really?
Yes. Visualization is a technique that's used by athletes, performers, everyone.
Oh, wow.
To improve performance because it essentially tricks your brain
Interesting.
into believing it's already achieving that desired outcome.
Wow.
And then they think to like increase confidence and motivation.
It's like you're already on the path, even if you're not quite there yet, you know?
Exactly.
Have you ever done like visualization stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I've dabbled. I don't know about you. I feel like it's such a popular technique, but it's one of those things that's actually like really easy to do.
It's true. I feel like I used to think it was very like woo-woo, but then I actually, I was training for a half marathon a while back and I used it and it really helped me, especially with like the mental game of running.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And like just getting through those tough miles.
It's so powerful. And, you know, it made me think of support systems, which we all need, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
But Universo Happixs, they talk about surrounding yourself with positivity.
Yeah, it's so important.
You know that phrase, you are the company you keep?
Yeah, 100%. Because I swear, I'm like so much more likely to be negative if I'm around negative people.
Oh, 100%.
Like misery loves company or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, it actually reminds me of this one time. Okay. So I was working with this person. I'm not going to say any names, but let's just say this person's negativity was like contagious.
Oh, no.
And it was like, it was really funny looking back on it, but it was also like a really important lesson for me in like setting boundaries.
Absolutely, because that energy, it's contagious, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's positive or negative.
Totally.
So being mindful of who you're surrounding yourself with, you know, for your own well-being, for achieving those goals.
Right.
Essential.
And social support is so important. It's like not selfish to be like, you know what, I actually need to like limit my time with this person.
Right.
It's self-care.
Right.
Because it's actually for my benefit.
Exactly.
Okay. So we're surrounding ourselves with good people. We're, you know, working on our mindset.
Visualizing, yeah.
Well, we're visualizing. Okay. So we have all the things, but here's the catch. All this positive thinking, it's great, but Universo Happixs reminds us it takes action.
Yeah.
We can't just like visualize our way to success and then like sit back and be like, all right, where's my dream life?
You got to meet the universe halfway. Right.
Right.
Manifestation, all that. It requires action.
Exactly. So like, what's the one thing we can all be doing?
Well, this actually circles back beautifully to that growth mindset that we were talking about.
Okay.
It's about taking consistent action. Even small steps, you know, to move towards what you want to achieve.
So it doesn't have to be this big, like, scary thing.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like, what's one small step that you can take today towards a goal that you have in mind? It doesn't have to be huge.
Just one thing. Write it down.
Let's do it.
Accountability. You know, what's so interesting to me is, like, the video really focuses on, like, the individual's mindset. And I think that's so important, but it makes you wonder, how much does our environment actually like affect our ability to stay positive and achieve our goals?
That's a really good question.
Right. Because we're not, you know, islands.
No, definitely not.
We're influenced by so much. So something to think about.
I like that. All right. Well, on that note,
Yeah.
go forth and do the thing.
Yes.
All them